This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk about updates on Half-Life 3, Steam Machine's price concerns, Xbox being dead again, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 11-12. I am your host, the man who left the newer model for the OLED one, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who left Samus for Lune, Justin, better known as I'm Zeracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Oh man, that was good. My week has been, it's been ramping up. What with Thanksgiving coming up, will be closed for that day as well as Friday. So work has been very hectic. Today was also extremely crazed, and I mean, fortunately, we got some stuff done ahead of time Friday, but still. We're still cramming in 2 more days worth of stuff over these 3 days here. So it's definitely been hectic on that end. So, but I mean, fortunately, as soon as I get through Wednesday, I'm gonna be in the clear there.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, it's not too much has happened. I've been trying to just take care of some stuff here and there, and so that sort of has been slowing down how much I've been gaming and whatnot, but it hasn't been too bad overall. There are, well, I guess I'll save those for later on in one of the topics since it's related to that. But yeah, I guess really there's not too much that's been going on this past week.
All right. Oh, well, let's see here. Apart from just having like a really busy Saturday, where I basically spent most of the day doing dishes. Oh, I guess, all right, let me back up. So I don't remember when it was last week, but sometime last week we discovered that our dishwasher wasn't working. It was bringing up an error code, and we looked it up, and the error code was like, it sounded like it was something where we were going to have to get a repair person to come in. It's just like, I don't want to deal with this. And I meant to call someone on Friday and see if they could come take a look, but I forgot to do it. So Saturday rolls around. I'm basically just washing dishes most of the day because I'm trying to get caught up because since my wife had, between teaching the kids and then going to homeschool co-op on Fridays are just a little too busy, and I just didn't really have time to get to it because I was working. So I spent a good chunk of the day Saturday just working on dishes and cleaning up in general. And I can't remember if I did any cooking, but that's not really relevant. So Sunday morning rolls around, and I decide, now that I've had a chance to rest and everything, before church, we had more time than usual. We were actually up early and whatnot. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to look up this error code and check a YouTube video, see how it would get fixed, if it's possible, something that I could do. And it was something that was actually really simple to fix. The part could be replaced, and replacing the part was a piece of cake. Although I didn't have the part, so I ordered one just in case, but I tried out something where basically I just needed to like clean the fan assembly a little bit. It's had kind of like a calcium buildup. Once I cleaned that, did a test run on the dishwasher, it ran perfectly, and it's been running ever since. So thankfully, we have a functioning dishwasher again, which I'm very grateful for. But backing up a little bit, so, of course, last week and, previous weeks for months now, we've been talking back and forth about whether or not I was going to keep my Switch 2. And I kept going back and forth on it. And a lot of it just came down to, I thought, okay, if I get rid of my Switch 2, I'm not going to have a way to play Switch games without having to share a system with either my wife or my kids. And, I really want to play on the OLED because the OLED has a much better screen. Especially, because well, I'll get to that. It's just I've been going back and forth on it. So I think it was Thursday, maybe either Thursday or Friday. I was just starting to think, okay, I'm looking at the idea of potentially buying another Switch OLED and then selling my Switch 2. Then I pick up my Switch 2 out of the dock and I'm like, man, this system feels so good in my hands. Like, I really like the way the Switch 2 feels, and I'm going to pull it out of my dock so that when I get to my conclusion of all this, no fanboys are doubting me. See, that's my Switch 2 with the satisfied grip and everything, and I love the way this thing feels in my hands. Like, it feels really nice. I love the Joy-Cons. I think they're a huge improvement over the original Joy-Cons. And when you look at the home screen, the screen looks great. But whenever you're trying to play Switch 1 games that don't have an upgrade, they look worse because they are rendering at 720p. And so it doesn't matter if they're running at 60 frames per second or not, because typically, well, I should say, there are some Switch 1 games that run at 60 frames per second. Obviously, lots of them that don't. But regardless of what frame rate they run at, because they're still rendering at 720p in handheld mode, it's having to stretch out that image to fit the 1080p screen. So the images end up looking more blurry. The games just look blurry. And so I pick up this thing and I decide, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try playing for a bit. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to try playing for a bit, try a handful of games, particularly the ones that were bothering me a bit more. Of course, Xenoblade Chronicles X, I've been waiting forever for there to be some sort of update, because there's something in the files that indicates there's a 60 frames per second mode, but we don't know if that's something that's ever officially coming or if it's just like somewhere down the line. I mean, like, is it going to come? Is it not going to come? Is it something that they tested and realized it wasn't consistent enough, so they decided not to do it? Who knows? But that's one of the games I was testing out, and this isn't even getting into what I've been playing. I'll get to that later. But that and a few other games, like some 2D sprite-based games, I was testing out. And it's just like, man, these games look so blurry. It's just so distracting how blurry these games look, and especially because I'm not getting any improved performance out of it. And so I finally just decided I'm going to get another Switch OLED. I'm going to sell the Switch 2. And I haven't really sold the Switch 2 yet, because I basically only listed it in a couple of places. I haven't put it on like eBay or anything else. And initially I was kind of going back and forth on whether I wanted to sell everything connected with it, because like the Switch 2 Pro controller is not natively supported on PC. There's no like Steam beta for it yet. I mean, there might be down the line, and I might consider holding on to it for that. But basically, I just decided between that and the grip and the case that came with the grip, I'm going to sell all of them. So I ordered myself a Switch OLED with a dockable grip, and I found a refurbished one, renewed, which I don't know if it was technically refurbished or if it's just basically it doesn't really matter. It's an Amazon renewed is what it was labeled as, which as far as I'm concerned is refurbished. The box is in like horrible shape, but everything inside the box was in excellent shape. So this was $250 compared to the $400 that the Switch OLED costs brand new. The grip was like $40. So altogether, I spent about $300. So $300 for that. As far as selling the Switch 2, I'm basically like, okay, well, Mario Kart is specifically tied to my account, Mario Kart World, so I can't offer that as part of the bundle. So since it's pretty much in brand new condition and includes a screen protector along with a backup one, then I'm gonna offer to sell it for $430, which is still cheaper than the brand new version of it. And of course, the fact that it comes with a screen protector on top of that, which would save them some money. it if someone wants to get it with the Pro controller, I charge basically $70 for the Pro controller instead of the 90 that it costs normally, or 80. I can't remember how much it is now, because it was originally going to be one price and then they raised it or something. I can't remember. But anyway, point is, it's still cheaper, and it's once again barely used. And then if they want it also with the grip and the case that came with the grip, I'm charging a total of $530 is what I'm looking at, because that's still all of those costs combined. They'd be spending less money, and they wouldn't have to pay sales tax. So at least if they're paying me directly. If they're going through eBay, they would probably have to pay sales tax, but at least depending on where they are, they might have to. But the main thing is that overall they would save money. They still get one that's in excellent condition, comes with everything they would need for it. And yeah, but it's not just the screen, it's also just the fact that there aren't really any compelling Switch 2 games for me right now. And even looking at what's coming out, like, the most compelling things are games that I already have on PC. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Elden Ring. I mean, those are both compelling, but they're also games I already own and can already play both of them on my Steam Deck. And I would hope probably Final Fantasy VII Remake at least would run better on the Switch 2, at least as far as not having issues in the towns, because that's the one area where it like stutters like crazy, or at least used to stutter like crazy on the Steam Deck. And if they fixed that, I mean, if they haven't fixed that, then it should theoretically run better on the Switch 2, even though it's locked at 30. Probably potentially looks a little better too, which, you know, both of those are great. But the fact of the matter is, there just isn't anything out or that's been announced that's compelling enough to warrant keeping it. Because the thing is, I really do want to play my Switch 1 games, but for one, the Switch, the games look way better on the OLED screen. Two, they look better on the Switch 1 screen because of the fact that it's 720p instead of being 1080p, so it's not stretching out the image to nearly double the resolution. I mean, double the screen size. I mean, the resolution of the Switch 2 screen is 1080p, which is nearly double the resolution of 720p. So when the image is stretched out, it just doesn't look good. It looks bad. And so having the Switch OLED makes it so that I have the ability to play those games at the correct resolution that they're supposed to be played at. I don't have to worry about waiting to see if some sort of update comes down the line, because the reality is that it just gets exhausting waiting for something like that to happen. And even though there are like probably one or two games that either currently run better on the Switch 2 because of updates, or may in the future run better because of updates, and at the very least will look better. The problem is that most of those updates are paid updates. And it's like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, 60 frames per second is very nice. It looks great on the Switch 2 screen and runs well. But I don't care enough, especially because of the fact that I basically finished that game to my satisfaction. Like, if I want to go back to it, I don't really mind. I can live with the lower frame rate for, you know, however long it takes me to get the remaining shrines, and it's not really worth it for something that I'm just not itching to play. The only other game I can think of where the higher frame rate would be nice is Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which I never finished because it's, you know, running at 60, but that's also with like a $25 upgrade pack that includes DLC, and I don't want it that badly, so I'd really rather just deal with the lower frame rate and enjoy the screen and everything. And it might sound kind of funny coming from me because of the fact that I'm always so much in favor of 60 frames per second over 30, but when I'm having to spend a lot of extra money just to get that higher frame rate, and it's after I've already bought the hardware, that's a whole different story. And furthermore, it's just like the 2D pixel games. I don't know that any of them actually run better on the Switch 2, at least not so far from what I've seen. They all seem to still run at 60 or 30 depending on the game. And then they look worse. So I just hate, I've been in this position for the past 5 months where I've wanted to play a bunch of games from my Switch backlog, and I just haven't been able to get past how bad they look on that screen. It's been such a downgrade from that standpoint. So I guess ultimately what I want to say is, I think for docked performance and visuals, the Switch 2 is far superior. At least as long as it upgrades the games. And just in general, the fact that it can get up to 4K resolution. 1440p, 4K, or 1080, 720, whatever. It can do all of those, which is great. But the problem is that I don't play docked that much, and I would much rather sacrifice the docked visuals and performance over sacrificing the handheld side. And that's the reality is that that's really where I'm sacrificing more playing on the Switch 2, because the games just aren't upgraded properly, and it feels like it's a waste of space, a waste of time and money. I would much rather have the Switch OLED, which I was already enjoying before I got the Switch 2, have the nicer screen without the ghosting issues, which, those weren't a big problem for me. They were still enough of a problem to where they did bother me at times. And to have just the better pixel density because of the fact that it's the correct resolution for how the game is rendering. So, yeah, that kind of is a summary of why I decided that I'm getting rid of my Switch 2. And I will say, it's not that I'll never buy a Switch 2 down the line. If I buy one down the line, though, it's going to be the OLED model. I'm just going to wait until then. And hopefully by then, not only will it be an OLED screen, but it will be a better quality screen, and then it'll feel more worthwhile, even though it's undoubtedly going to be more expensive. And by then, they should theoretically have some games that actually are compelling enough to make it feel like it's a worthwhile purchase. Whereas right now, it's like, I'm kind of sort of interested in Kirby Air Riders because it's a Sakurai game, but that's really the extent of my interest in it, because I didn't play the original Kirby Air Ride, and I don't really need another racing game. And I know that there's more to it than that. And like Sakurai, I mean, he's brilliant. The way he makes games, it's just, he's so great. But it's not worth it to me for one game, when I could just have the Switch OLED and play my probably 50 backlog games, if I exclude the ones that are just ones I bought for comparison purposes or that I repurchased on Steam, in which case I just play them there in most cases. But yeah.
Okay. So I guess before I do a little deep dive here, I am glad that you're able to easily get your washing machine, dishwasher repaired, and also the fact that it saved you a whole lot of money, because a lot of these people will charge you like nearly an arm and leg for repairs, but if you're able to easily fix it yourself, that saves a lot of money on that end. Wow. I'll admit I was definitely like you said, I know we talked about it over the weeks, and you said you weren't certain one way or another about what you were going to do, but I still was a bit shocked to see that you decided to sell your Switch too. I mean, I understand. I definitely understand where you're coming from in that aspect. I guess it feels kind of sad though, just because you were looking forward to getting this, and something that you had to go through a couple places just to even find one to begin with, and then after getting one, it was a bit of a letdown. So it is kind of sad that it came to this, but at least you're able to get another Switch, and I guess to a degree you're able to I guess, well, I guess you're able to sort of recoup what you spent on that, and you got a model to a degree. I guess you could say that you care for more. So I guess in the end, it sort of evens out one way or another. Oh, one question I had. I know you said it doesn't work on like PC yet, really, but does the Switch 2 Pro controller work at all in the? Oh wow.
Nope. That's otherwise I would keep it for sure, but because of the fact that it doesn't even work on the Switch, the regular Switch, then there's not much point from that standpoint. I mean,
Right.
basically the way I'm looking at it is that if whoever buys the Switch 2 wants to get it with the Pro controller, if I can sell basically essentially a bundle, then I will do that. If they don't want the Pro controller for whatever reason, even if it's just a cost reason, I may hold on to it and then just kind of wait, because I'm sure it will be eventually supported in Steam, because like the Switch Pro controller wasn't supported in Steam when it first came out, and then they added stuff in the beta to make it usable. So I could definitely see myself using it at that point, but I mean, really, I would rather just use it on the Switch. That's really why I would prefer to use it, because like the way I have it now with the dockable grip for the Switch, I'm probably not really going to take it out. I'm just going to keep it in. I mean, keep the Switch in the grip at all times, because I can stick it in the dock and still maintain the grip. Plus, I can go back to using that third-party dock that I bought, or that I got to review, a while back, and I prefer that for the Switch, because it's a lot easier to get it in and out than it is out of the regular dock, where you have to like pull it all the way out, and this one you just kind of tip it a little bit and pull. So, but yeah, what I may end up doing is, since the QRD controller, this one works with the Switch and the Switch 2, I may end up using this whenever I do docked. In fact, I probably will, because the back buttons are very helpful. And unfortunately, that's the one thing I'm missing about handheld mode. But of course, I didn't have that on the Switch 2 anyway in handheld mode. So it's just like one of the games that I have played a little bit, which I'll talk about in a little while, though I don't have footage for it, would be beneficial to have the back buttons for certain things. So more likely than not, I will end up programming it to work that way, and I may end up playing more in docked mode with that game than I originally thought, but honestly, I don't know for sure. Either way, I still would much rather have it on the Switch OLED than play it on the Switch 2, because the Switch 2, it just looks extremely blurry. So
Yeah, and thinking about it, it's a bit of a shame that they didn't provide, or that they don't provide you with an option, even if they don't have to necessarily. Well, it would be great if they could, properly boost the resolution natively, so that way it's running at 1080p. It'll be nice. I mean, I know some people might not like it this way because they might think it looks ugly, but if they could keep the original resolution, just have like a black box around the screen. I mean,
yeah,
because they kind of did that with, I think, the some DS games, when like if you played on the 3DS or something like that, you could keep the original.
Yeah, if you held down select when you started it up, then you could run it at the native resolution with the black box around or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, thankfully it doesn't stretch it quite as much as DS games on the 3DS, where it really stretched it out, and it was like it was pretty bad. But it's still just bad enough to where it's like it makes it hard to enjoy. And considering the fact that the main reason why I convinced myself it was okay to grab a Switch 2 when I did was because I figured, oh, I can play all my Switch 1 games. But when they look worse and run the same, what's the point? So yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was something I went back and forth on for a long time. And I know that, especially if I put this as like a clip or whatever, that there's going to be some people who are going to be like, oh, you're crazy for doing that. But, these are the same kinds of people who, if someone told them that they had bought a Steam Deck and then they decided to sell it because they preferred the Switch, they'd be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And I mean, granted, yes, the Steam Deck doesn't have backwards compatibility with Switch games, but that's not the point. I mean, the point of the matter is that I don't like the Switch 2 as much as the Switch 1. I like the way it feels. I think the hardware, like the overall feel of the hardware, the design, I really like. I think the magnetic Joy-Cons are fantastic. And I like the fact that everything's bigger and it's easier to hold. But the problem just remains that it is a much worse screen, despite being higher resolution and higher refresh rate. And it makes it really difficult to enjoy games. And I don't want to be like constantly wishing that I could be playing some of the games that I own, but being so bothered by the screen resolution that it just completely ruins the experience for me. And that's what was happening. So one little quick side note I'll mention is when I had my Switch 2 out the other day and, you know, was trying to convince myself that I should just keep the Switch 2, I looked over at my wife's Switch OLED and I was watching her just play Animal Crossing, and it's like, man, it looks so good on that screen. And it's just, yeah. I finally decided I'm just done with it, you know? It was not a wise investment. But of course, really, I just didn't think that the screen would be so bad. And I really wasn't expecting that there would be so many games that would just look terrible because of the fact that it's stretching out 720p to a nearly double resolution screen. So it is what it is, but I posted the Switch 2 in a couple places to see if anybody was interested. If I don't get any bites within the next probably few days, I'll also see about posting it a couple other places. I'm kind of holding off on eBay as long as possible, seeing if I can do something local before I do eBay. But at the same time, the benefit of doing something like eBay would be that I don't have to worry about like meeting someone somewhere and potentially having someone try to shoot me or whatever for it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens. I mean, I had success when I sold my original Steam Deck, you know, with someone I talked to through one of the local marketplaces. So we just met at a public place, and then he checked it out, he liked it, and he bought it. So hopefully I'll have something similar, especially with it being right around the holidays. It's like, you know, I'm sure someone would want to get it and save some money that way. It may not be a ton of money, but I mean, realistically, when you take tax into the consideration, you probably save like 60, 70 bucks at least, probably like 80 or 90, maybe even as much as $100 with the tax on all that. I mean, I don't know exactly. I'd have to, you know, look at how much I spent on it all. So I mean, it's like, technically, I mean, I am going to lose some money on it, but I mean, the price I mean, the loss of money is worth the ability to be able to play the games in a way that I can actually enjoy them. And furthermore, to screw Nintendo, say screw you Nintendo, by not giving them any money for the console. They didn't get a single dime off of my Switch OLED purchase because I bought it refurbished. And yeah, especially because I'm getting more and more irritated with their digital game stuff. It's such garbage, the way they've designed this thing. But one more thing I do want to note. I was looking into the possibility of seeing if it was possible to mod my Switch OLED. Turns out that apart from the original Switch, the only way to do a software mod, well, you can't do a software mod. You have to do a hardware mod. You have to install a mod chip, which includes like taking it apart and soldering stuff in. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going that far. I don't care that much. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would really want it for is for the purpose of being able to overclock my Switch for some games to make them run a bit better, and potentially being able to dump my games so that I could emulate them on PC, because I have a lot of games. But those are really the only reasons, and it's like, it's not worth that. I don't have any experience doing that stuff. I have one friend who could potentially do it, but he has a lot of projects. I'm not going to ask him to do it. I'll just play the games and enjoy them as is, and it'll be fine. I don't have to have high frame rates for everything. I just want to enjoy my games. And, you know, while I would definitely enjoy them more if they were higher frame rates and higher resolution, at least this way I can enjoy them at their native resolution instead of, you know, some random, or I mean, instead of a stretched out image and all that other stuff. But yeah, anyway. All right, so what have you been playing this week?
All right, so not a whole lot. Just as a, I guess, passing notes. I tried playing a little bit of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night just because of the DLC, but it's just hard getting into that DLC because it's really based off of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, and that game is just... The NES games are rough
Yeah.
like that, so trying to get back into that has been a hassle, so I just like stopped after 5 minutes of that. Then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go for broke and get the rest of the achievements, so I went back to Choo Choo Survivors, and I did end up getting all the achievements.
Nice.
It was a bit of a hassle because for some reason trying to get through the final 5 minutes of surviving was just gruesome, to say the least. And then I realized the big reason why is because the first time I got it down right is because I had been properly spamming all of the abilities that I needed to get through it. And the second time I was just trying to play it safe and save all my resources when I realized, no, I shouldn't be saving resources. I should just be spamming it constantly. And as soon as something runs out, refill it all over again. And that's essentially the only way to survive those 5 minutes of nightmare. So I did that, went through most of the levels, got the last hard one, and then I realized, oh wait, I was so focused on beating these levels on hard mode, I thought they would automatically beat the game on the normal difficulty setting as well. I actually even thought I'd beat the normal difficulty as well, but apparently it doesn't count that way, so I had to go back and play the levels all over again on normal mode, which I'm like, that's no big deal. I mean, if I could beat on hard mode,
Yeah.
you know, normal mode's gonna be a walk in the park, which essentially it is. I mean, because you get access to more resources. I think power-ups spawn more frequently or something like that. So it was a
Nice.
whole lot easier, and was able to get all that done. So I'm done with that game now, 100%, and I don't have to touch this ever again. But then after all that, I decided I want to go back and see if I can finally get that pesky DLC stuff, or not DLC, but the update content. So I went back to Palworld, and I realized that the guide that I was looking at originally, it did not make any sense at all as far as location, because it said to follow these map coordinates, and I was trying to follow it properly, but every time I kept going there, it didn't work, and I was trying to figure out, and I thought maybe the update, you know, timed out this time. Maybe this was a timed event and stuff, so I lost out on everything. I went around looking around some more, and I saw there was a video, and turns out the video had more accurate information than what the guide I saw posted. So checking that out, I was able to go find the one person who was selling the one PAL costume. So I went to him, got the costume for that, and I was like, all right, cool. So maybe everything is fine there. So I went to the Zoe quest, and then I realized after finding her and taking care of a couple things, I was a bit wrong, or rather, I might have confused and blended two ideas, because I thought that trying to get her as a partner you can work with is completely separate from the Halloween event update. So apparently that's just like a skin thing, and she actually is possibly an actual permanent addition to the game. So you can actually find her, well, you can actually have her and her pal Grisbolt join your team if you go ahead and complete the quest. So I was like, all right, that's pretty cool then. So it took me a bit longer because I actually had to do a bunch of more stuff than I thought I was gonna have to do, but eventually I was able to get her and Grisbolt as a part of the team, and honestly, I'm a bit pleased with how they handle this, because you actually get to have the same moves from the boss fight, which I think is like pretty cool. So that way it's not just having, the regular Grizzball that you can find and catch in the wild. This one actually has the same moves as the boss fight. So I thought, all right, that's cool. So I spent some time leveling them up because you get them at level 1. Still working on getting them at higher levels and stuff, but got through some of that stuff there. And while I was doing, also trying to like complete some quests there, I didn't realize that there have been, I don't know, some new, maybe not new areas, but certain things that have popped up. For example, there's this big oil rig that is like an enemy base. I'm thinking to myself, how long has this thing been here? I have not noticed this at all. So I am eventually going to plan on going there to see what that's all about. And actually thinking about it, I realized that if this one boss is now technically an ally you can have with you in your party, I wonder if that means other of the main bosses actually later on can be added. Now, I mean, so far, this is the one that has been mentioned. I don't know if this is going to be, all of them are going to be added on by the time version 1.0 releases. I don't know if it's, particular to, like, the type of bosses, because I know lore-wise, I haven't looked too much into, like, this main, I guess you could say, story of Palworld, but, certain bosses are more despicable than others. So, like, technically, Zoe is a victim of circumstance and just, like, got into the situation, but there are other ones who are like, yeah, you're just a scumbag, essentially. So I don't know if that's gonna like change depending on like who you can have join, but I think it's kind of cool if you could have the bosses you defeat actually become part of your members. I mean, it's kind of like if you went and were playing some any other type of RPG and just like, all right, cool, you know what? I fought Sephiroth. Sephiroth, you're my party now. Just go ahead and unleash supernova on everyone right now. That would be kind of cool to have. So definitely interesting. There are some things that I still just need to work on. I also got rid of this one sort of technically it's an enhancement for your pal spheres that help boost the capture rate, but on the one hand it curves the trajectory around, so it's really hard to get the aim right, and sometimes it'd be back enough so that way you actually don't throw the ball right behind them. And so like I after losing about 50 pal spheres, I decided I'm just gonna remove this thing. It's not worth having that small capture boost rate just for losing so many spheres. So I did that. But yeah, that's essentially everything that I've gotten into the game so far. But definitely some good updates that they've added in there, and still exploring.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely think the more I see of this game, the more I'm like, I would probably be interested in checking this out someday. I mean, I don't know when, because, I have so many other games, but it does look pretty fun, and I think that there's enough stuff to where I would probably enjoy myself. So one of these days, I'll probably check it out, maybe like when it's cheap after the 1.0 comes out. Or is it already 1.0 out?
No, that's supposed to be sometime next year.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, maybe sometime after that, I'll give it a shot. So as far as what I've been playing, first of all, I finished up Moonscars. I actually was not at the last boss when I thought I was. There was still another boss after that. And the actual last boss took me quite a few tries. The footage just playing here is just some general, like, wandering around footage. I still have no idea how many hours I had in the game altogether, because it didn't give me any sort of total amount of time at all. Which I just think is odd that it doesn't have that, because it's probably the only game I've seen that doesn't have any sort of hour counter. But yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed the game. And of course, it was free, so it's not like I lost any money if I hadn't enjoyed it. So it was just overall a pretty good time. I'm glad I played it. And I mean, I still really, really love the art style. I think that's fantastic. The music's great, it runs great. So yeah, had a good time with it. But when I finished that, I decided that I wanted to just kind of fiddle around with a few different things. First of all, I'll just mention, so the footage that I'm going to be playing here is footage I recorded on the Switch 2 when I was trying to convince myself that I wanted to keep it. And so I played a little bit of both Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy VI Pixel remasters. And in both cases, well, for one, the recorded footage, I think it's just the internal recording for the Switch, is just really low resolution. So this looks worse than it actually does in game. But it still just looked really stretched out on that screen. I didn't play far into either game. I basically just played through the early part of the prologue with Final Fantasy VI on the Switch 2, and then I played, let's see here, how far was I into Final Fantasy IV? Because 4 I had played a little bit back in 2023 to record that little segment for the intro, for our podcast intro. And then beyond that, I just barely, I think I played until I got just past the summon that you fight before you go into the Mystic Village. Mystic Village, I think that's what it's called. The village where Rydia is from, or Rydia, or however you pronounce her name. Anyway, point is that I didn't get super far into it. So yeah, it was, like I said, pretty early in the game for both situations. I ended up playing a little bit more of both after getting the Switch OLED. I played a bit this afternoon, and of course, for one, it looks way better on that screen than it does on the Switch 2 screen. But yeah, I do love these games. And the music is just, oh, so good. And of course, basically the soundtracks are reorchestrated. So, I mean, as great as the music was, just in the original Super Nintendo sound font, it's still, it's even better now. And it's like, oh, I love it. I love it so much. And, yeah, because let's see here, 4, I just played basically until just after Rydia and Cecil wake up after the village, and I barely played past that. And then on Final Fantasy VI, I played just to the point of getting to Figaro Castle and like right after Kefka shows up. So very, very early in both games. I don't know how much I'm actually going to play either one right now. But I've definitely been tempted off and on, because it's like, these are games that, I mean, 4 I played a bunch of times. I played the original Super Nintendo, the US Super Nintendo version first, and then I played it a couple times on PS1, although I guess I didn't actually fully finish it on PS1 the first time, and then the second time I fully finished it. And then I also played the Game Boy Advance version, which I can't remember if I finished that one. I don't think I did. And then I played the DS version to completion. So yeah, I played it quite a few times. And then 6, I played the Super Nintendo version, completed that, and then I played the PS1 version and completed that. And I've restarted the PS1 version a couple of times, but never actually finished it. So yeah. But 6 is my favorite as an overall, like, to be as objective as possible. I think 6 is the best. 4 is still one of my favorites, still holds a very special place in my heart because it was one of the earliest Final Fantasies I played, and it's also just excellent. But yeah, both of them, I love them both so much. So we'll see if I actually do any more in either of these games. I'll probably be like, I'll just play for a little bit in one, and then I'll play a little bit of the other. And maybe if as time goes on, like one of the times I'll just get hooked, and then I'll just be playing for a while. But yeah. So I kind of backing up. When I was testing out games, I don't have footage recorded, but I did play a little bit of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Really, initially was testing it out on the Switch 2, being really unsatisfied with how incredibly blurry it looks on top of the fact that it's only 30 frames per second. And so then I stopped playing that. And another game I don't have any footage for that I played, like, probably a grand total of a minute was Guacamelee 2. I just booted it up trying to get past that part where I was stuck, that one optional platforming challenge. And I made it further when I was playing it on the Switch OLED than I made it on the Switch 2, but I still haven't finished that, and whenever I decide to go back to it, I just need to look up how to get past that thing and make sure that essentially I know how far I have to go, how close I was to the end, so at least I know what to expect, so that I can just get through that, because that was the one challenge that it's like, it stopped me from continuing and finishing the game. I mean, I think I still had at least a little ways to go. Like, I was pretty close to the end story-wise, I believe, but I wanted to get all the challenges done, so I hadn't finished all of those. Let me see here. But I did actually pick up Xenoblade Chronicles X again this afternoon and played probably another half hour or so. I'm leaning pretty heavily towards, when I finish the game that I'm currently working on, which I'll get to momentarily, that I will potentially go back to Xenoblade Chronicles X and just play that. Because I've been wanting to play it for quite a while anyway, because I love the game. I mean, it's a great game. The 30 frames per second is rough, but, you know, I'm not going to wait around for Nintendo to eventually do an update. It's like, with the way they've been, how stingy they've been on their updates, and the fact that they'll probably charge for it, I'm just not going to wait. Plus, I'm getting rid of my Switch too, so there's no reason to wait anymore. It does look definitely better on the OLED screen than it does on the Switch 2. It still doesn't look the best, but it looks a lot better on there than it does on the Switch 2. So that's enough for me to be able to consider it worthwhile to just go ahead and finally jump in, like really jump in and give it my full attention, because I'm kind of in the mood to do that anyway, since it's been a while since I've had like a really meaty RPG. And of course that one, the last time I played all the way through it was 2015. Well, between 2015 and 2016. I started it in 2015 and I finished it probably early 2016, but yeah, so it's been quite a while. Let's see here. I feel like there was something else I'm forgetting about with those. And I may end up recording some of this footage and adding it after the fact, especially for like Xenoblade. But gosh, I know there was something else. Oh, just as a side thing, I saw that it was finally on sale, so I grabbed the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 collection on the Switch, because it's the only because the console version is the only one that actually supports controllers, and it's designed to work well on consoles. Whereas the original PC version, like the GOG version, it's the original PC version, so it has, it's like, it'd be fine with mouse and keyboard, but it's not designed to work well with controllers, and trying to make it work was just like a huge hassle when I tried doing it before. So I'd been waiting for a sale on this, and the physical version you can't get for even a reasonable price anymore, so I just bought it digital. So I'll check that out at some point. But one other thing, oh yeah, that's right. The other thing that I played that was I probably played just an hour, was just some more of Persona 3 Reload, just working a little more, grinding through the DLC, but I didn't play much, and I didn't record any footage. Actually, I meant to actually bring that up, and I forgot to do that, add that into the thing, so maybe I'll just add it after the fact. If not, it's not really a big deal. But I did start up the demo for Raito Remastered. I can't remember the full title of the game, but it's the Shin Megami Tensei spin-off, the remaster of a PS2 game, and it's action RPG. So I just played like the very beginning, the prologue, and a little ways in beyond that. I think I basically played up to just the start of chapter 1, and the bit that I played, I liked. It's not like the smoothest combat by any stretch, but I definitely think that if I mess around with it some more, I'd probably be able to get a good handle on it. The fight that's being displayed right now is actually one that's scripted that you're basically supposed to lose, so I did not win the fight. I would imagine there might be a way to actually win it, but even if there is, I didn't know that at the time, so I'm guessing there probably is not. You're supposed to lose the fight, and I don't think that there's a way to win because the enemies hit a lot harder than you do. So, but yeah, a little bit that I played, I liked. I mean, I really just got a little bit of combat time, and then they did a little bit of showing you some of the other mechanics of stuff you can do. It seems almost like it's kind of like a combination of what you call it, Ace Attorney and an action RPG. So you do some investigating, and then you also do the action stuff. It's like, okay, hey, that's cool. I'm down for that. But yeah, so a little bit that I played, I liked. But the game that I have spent a bunch of time on this week, so there was, just to back up ever so slightly, there was a game that was revealed in the last Xbox showcase, which I forgot to even put down as something we could talk about, mostly because I didn't watch it anyway. But it's a game called Zoo Punk, and I don't know if you saw the preview for this, but it was a game that looked pretty cool. And it is essentially a sequel to a game called FIST, Forged in Shadow Torch, which is a 2D Metroidvania where you play as a rabbit with a mechanical fist on his back. And this one came out a few years ago. It's part of the China Hero project. And yeah, I've had it in my backlog for quite a while, and I finally decided to boot it up. So this game is freaking amazing. Well, for one, as far as performance goes, Steam Deck, it's very easy to get 60 frames per second. Like loading screens occasionally will be lower than that, but you can get 60 frames per second very easily. So, and that's with basically high settings, except for I turn off motion blur and turn off anti-aliasing, makes it more consistent on the 60 frames per second. The footage here, I actually had a setting or two lower than the maximum, but then I just decided to try after the fact and found out that it worked fine even with the shadows turned up. So, but then on my desktop, so it actually ran pretty well even with ray tracing turned on, but in order to use ray tracing, you have to have DirectX 12 being used, and it stutters frequently with DirectX 12. Even though I was still getting 120 frames plus without a problem, even with everything maxed out, including ray tracing. So I ended up just going back to DirectX 11, and then, which meant, of course, no ray tracing, and then I was getting pretty much a locked 199 frames per second. So, pretty legit. But anyway, as far as, I mean, like the actual gameplay is obviously what's most important for this. It's just a really fun Metroidvania. Like, I like the platforming. I like the combat. I like the puzzles and the use of, backtracking and everything. I mean, this is a genuine Metroidvania, and it's really fun. The music is fantastic. Like, if I have to complain about something with this game, it would be the combat training challenges, which there seems to be, like, I'm not sure how much of it is an input delay versus how much of it is an issue with, like, just the animations for the attacks taking too long, but I think it takes a little. I think, like, your first attack will is pretty much instantaneous, but then because of how long the animation takes, it takes a little while for the game to get notice your next input, essentially. So it's like you can press X, X, Y, and it will do that sequence, but it's not like right after each one. So like you press X and the first time it's doing the X attack, and then when you press Y, it doesn't do it until the animation's done for that previous attack. And so like when you have these training challenges where you have to do specific combos, you basically have to hit the combo as best as you can in order, and then hopefully it will actually, it kind of cues each thing that you do, but it doesn't, but because of the fact that it takes longer than right after you hit the button, you have to get the timing right, and like it'll be an issue of, particularly if there's something where you have to do X, X, Y, up Y, and then you have to jump up while you're in midair to do some midair attacks. If it doesn't jump quite right, then you completely miss the midair attacks, and it's just the training thing. That is the one thing that I think is just awful in this game. And from what I've heard from some people, some of the later training ones just basically are impossible. So we'll see whether or not I actually do all the training ones. I may just like go as far as I can, see if I do better at the higher frame rates, and then from there, just if I can't get it, then just move on, because I don't want to spend too much time on that, because I don't want it to keep me from finishing the game, because otherwise I'm really enjoying it. Like, I think the platforming is really good. The use of the various attacks is good. The combos can be really good if like you find combos that work well for you. It's just, learning the different combos and that sort of thing. And you don't have to use combos, but it can be helpful because you can do like some cooler stuff with your different weapons. You get two different you start off with a fist, then you get a drill, and that's not really a spoiler because you get it pretty early on. And then there's a third weapon that I don't have yet. But I don't know, it's just I'm having a real good time with it. Oh, the other thing I would actually say that I have a complaint about is that there's no dodge button. There's a dash button. It's basically jumping to dodge more than anything else. Jumping and dashing. And you can't like dash through an enemy or anything. You basically have to jump over them to dash past them. So that can get pretty annoying. But there's still a good variety of attacks you can do, and unfortunately, like the parrying, by early on you get the ability to parry, but it like uses up skill points, like a specific type of skill point in order to use the parries, which is a bit annoying. The one thing that's not as bad about it is that if you use that particular type of parry, it's a guaranteed parry, because you're basically just like twirling around these things and you just hold it until they attack, and then when they attack, it automatically parries. But then a little bit later, you actually get the ability to do manual parries, which don't use up any skill points. And so then you still have the ability to parry otherwise, which could be definitely helpful. I'm trying to think of what else I can say about this game. I guess just like overall, I'm enjoying it a lot. I've been having a blast with it, been playing it a bunch between my PC and Steam Deck. Oh, I guess one other complaint I have, this is much more minor, but is that it doesn't save the settings independently between devices. So when I go to my desktop, I have to bump everything up. When I go back to my Steam Deck, I have to lower stuff. Although it seems like now that most of the settings actually seem to work just fine, you still get 60 frames per second on Steam Deck, even with the settings maxed out. It's really just like I turn off, I can't even remember which setting it is, but there's like one or two settings that I have to turn off in order to make it run better on the Steam Deck, and then it's great. So yeah, but anyway, as an overall, I've been enjoying this game a lot, and I'm definitely planning to stick with it. I will probably be, my hope is to play the rest of this game to my satisfaction. I would like to get 100%, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to do with some of those training challenges. And then once I've done that, then I will probably move on to play something on the Switch. Hopefully Xenoblade. Xenoblade Chronicles X is where I'm leaning most heavily, but it's very possible I'll go back to Guacamelee 2, try to finish that up, and then go from there. So we'll see what happens. But that's everything.
Okay. So regarding the combos, you mentioned how you're pretty much locked in the animations until they're finished.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to cancel out of the combos by, say, trying to parry or trying to dash at all? Or,
It
like,
probably
have to
is,
completely
but
finish the
that doesn't.
animation
It doesn't really help for when you have to do a specific set of combos. You have to do specific
Okay.
moves for those training challenges. Because like otherwise, it's not a problem at all. Like it's really never an issue for me. But it's just in those training challenges where you have to press specific buttons in a specific sequence in order to pass the challenge.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I was thinking more so of like in combat situations if that was a problem, but yeah,
Yeah,
I can
it's not really a
imagine
problem
it's,
in
like,
combat.
much worse in the actual thing.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, that's definitely an odd choice, design choice there. There's another question I was gonna have about the gameplay. What was that gonna be? It was about. Well, there was definitely another question I had. All right, I'm gonna have to come back to that question because
Okay.
off the top of my head I can't remember what that was gonna be. So I guess jumping back a bit, going back to Final Fantasy 4 and 6, I can definitely say I agree. Final Fantasy 4 is really solid and is my personal favorite Final Fantasy game. 6, I do need to finally go back and complete because I've had a start-stop time with that game just because having a game where I jump back and forth between characters at different times was different to me, and so I wasn't accustomed to that, so it seemed weird. So I just like stopped it. Like I know I didn't get far into the game. Like I think I essentially got past maybe the first time the party splits up where you can play as two different parties because I realized I think at a boss fight with one party. Maybe it wasn't a boss fight, but I think it was a boss fight, and I lost. And so I was ready to go back and say, all right, I'm going to boot up I'm going to go, all right, it's going to ask me to continue, and then I'll go back and try it all over again. But no, I went to the other party, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. No, I don't want to leave. Give me another shot. I want to beat this guy. And so I guess I was like disappointed that I didn't get another chance, that I just was like, okay, I'm going to stop playing for right now. But I've sort of made progress with the game. I know when I first played it, I wasn't really feeling it. I think that was originally, I can't remember where I played that originally. It might have been on either was on the PS1, I think I first played it, and then I played it again on the Super Nintendo Classic. But then that's when I actually started playing it some more and giving it another chance.
Yeah.
But I just stopped after that. But it is one that I need to get back to. I don't know if I will go back to playing it on the SNES Classic, since I really don't have too much of a reason to keep going back to that, or if I would maybe just go ahead and get the Pixel Collection, start over, because I really feel like if I went back to playing it on there, I really probably would not remember what I was doing in the first place. And so I think it'd be better to just start all over again. So I mean, maybe I'll do that, get the Pixel Collection and just start over there, once that's on sale or something. But 4 was, I enjoyed 4. It wasn't the first one I played. It wasn't the first Final Fantasy I played, but when I played that one, I was just like, wow, this is awesome. This is great.
Yep.
And I definitely agree. The music. I mean, the music in both games the music in both games are great,
Hmm.
but I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed Four's characters. I enjoyed the
Yeah.
story, and I like that sort of theme of redemption in a
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
Just like you sort of were the reason why everything was wrong to begin with in the game, but then you're sort of
Hmm.
like going back, undoing your mistakes, and making amends with all the people that you've
Yeah.
hurt across the world. And it's like this is good.
Hmm.
I liked this so much. So 4 has just had a very it's just been great to me. And the only thing I would definitely say was just bad about 4 is that when they ported the 3D remake to PC, they it was so bare bones that they didn't even get the game to run above 15 frames per second. And
Yeah.
it's uh like I enjoyed playing it on the DS originally,
Hmm.
but when you're playing a more modern, up-to-date version, you kind of
Yeah.
expect the performance to be better.
Right.
But yeah, but all in all though, 4 just as a game though is just I just enjoyed that one
Hmm.
so much.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's that. Oh, I think I remember the question now. So with Zoopunk, so you mentioned that this was the actual sequel. Have you played Fist before?
No, this is my first time playing it. Um,
Ah,
yeah, this is what convinced me to finally give it a shot because it's one I've been interested in playing for a long time now because it's a Metroidvania, can't go wrong. But yeah, that then when I heard about the sequel and saw the trailer, it's like, this looks like it must be related to Fist because it looks just like the protagonist from Fist. And then sure enough, I found out it certainly was.
okay. I think those were all the questions that I had.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. Well, I guess let's go ahead and get into the news. So, uh, sorry, I just got a message in. Um, yeah, let's get into the news. Oh, you know what? Actually, real quick before I forget, just because I forgot to mention it, and I don't have any footage for it, but I did also play Aperture Desk Job. I finally got around to playing that. It was fantastic. I loved it, and it added a little bit of extra lore to Portal, which was even cooler. But yeah, it was great. It was hilarious. I very much enjoyed it. So yeah. Okay, but let's get into the news. So the first thing, this is really just a very small topic, just because we talked about it a little bit last week. So last week we talked about the possibility of Half-Life 3 being revealed soon. We thought, we agreed, we thought, it's going to be revealed on the 19th. Of course it wasn't. So one thing that I realized in looking back at the rumors and everything relating to that, so the existence of Half-Life 3 is not in doubt, at least as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't have any doubts that it exists. But from looking again at what the leakers, the people who have been bringing up the stuff that's within Valve's files and brought up the whole thing initially about the fact that there's 5 upcoming releases, or if you're looking at just games, it's 2 upcoming releases and there's only 1 listed currently. They were saying, yes, this game is real. They've been saying it for a while. They've been bringing up all these things that are within the files and so on and so forth. But they didn't say that they didn't actually say that it was going to be revealed on the 19th. They said it's going to be revealed soon. They don't know the exact timing for that though. And the 19th was something that people had thrown out there, mostly because of the fact that that was the day of the 27th anniversary of the original Half-Life. So yeah, that's basically the extent of the update, is that we don't have any idea when it's actually being shown. But at least personally, I still believe it's absolutely real. It's just a question of when we're going to see it that I don't have the answer to. and I'm not even going to theorize. Uh, at least, well, I'm not going to put down any like this is definitely when it's being revealed. Just more like I have some ideas of when it could be revealed, but yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I am a fervent believer that Half-Life 3 is coming, but like you said, we don't know when it's going to be announced. It could be shadow dropped at some point. They could announce it at the Game Awards show. We don't know
Yeah.
what's going on here. And in fact, I think I saw something that someone posted about that Jeff Keighley made a tweet or something with an image, and I think it was from Half-Life 1. It was, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Half-Life 1 or something like that. And so because of that, people were like, are you serious? Or are you just trying to troll us right now? Because I'm like, if they did show it at E3, I mean not E3, the Game Awards show, yeah, that would definitely be noteworthy to say the least. But I mean, come to think of it, I don't think that any type of major announcement that Valve has done has been at Game Awards show or anything like that. So they've pretty much done it by themselves. I don't think, I mean, I don't know how they announced it originally, but I almost feel certain that Half-Life Alyx wasn't announced like at any major
Yeah, it was just
event.
completely separate.
So, I have little reason to doubt that they'll do the same thing again and just independently say, hey, by the way, here's Half-Life 3 coming so and so. And although I will say though, I still feel confident that's gonna come day and date as the Steam Machine
I
and
agree.
everything else. So I feel like if they do reveal it, they will also reveal the launch date of the Steam Machine, Steam Frame, and Steam Controller. So I feel like if we know one, we'll know all the rest. We might not know the pricing, that is, but we'll know everything else. But yeah, that's essentially it for me. I believe it's coming. I just don't know when we're gonna know that's coming.
Right. Well, to expand on my thoughts a little bit, kind of give a little more to it than what I said before, which is just repeating myself. But anyway, essentially, yes, I believe this is real. I mean, I still believe Half-Life 3 is real. I have basically no doubt in my mind that it's real at this point. It is legitimate. When it's coming, I don't know. I will say one thing. Portal 2 was actually revealed at a PS3 event. So, it's not impossible that it could be revealed at the Game Awards for Half-Life 3. Furthermore, as far as I know, I believe people have said, because I haven't watched the Game Awards closely in the past couple of years, but that Jeff has been like trolling us about having a Half-Life reveal. Like he's given hints that made it sound like it was going to be Half-Life, and then of course it wasn't. I could absolutely see, I mean, Jeff could certainly afford it to pay Valve to say, here we're going to announce so they can announce Half-Life 3 at the Game Awards, which would be huge. Huge. And at the same time also reveal the release date for the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame and the Steam Controller and prices. Maybe the prices, maybe less so. The prices I think are the least likely of the things that could be revealed. Well, apart from maybe Half-Life 3, but if they were going to reveal Half-Life 3, I think we would get the dates for that and the Steam hardware. But I also I don't think it's impossible. And I think I'm going to have to watch the Game Awards this year. I think I'm just going to have to plan to watch it, because I mean, I kind of enjoy it too, even if I'm just like a couple times I've literally just had the Game Awards on in the background while I was playing a game, and I would probably do something along those lines. But really, just if Half-Life 3 does get announced, I don't want to miss it. And I mean, I think now it's more possible than it's ever been, because of the fact that there's just a lot of smoke regarding Half-Life 3 and it being announced soon. So, I mean, unless it gets announced before then. If it gets announced before then I probably won't watch the Game Awards and I'll just find out the highlights after the fact, or after it's like most of the way done, then I'll go back and just kind of like fast forward and then watch stuff as it comes up that I'm interested in checking out. But yeah, I think that we could potentially see it at the Game Awards if it doesn't get announced before then. And I'm willing to give it a shot. I mean, now that we're not doing the podcast later in the week, so I don't have to edit on Thursdays. And of course, even when I'm editing on Thursdays, it's usually being done in the morning, passively while I'm working. Then I think it's very possible that, or I mean, it shouldn't be a problem for me to make that work. I don't think I'm going to stream it because I think that just would be kind of boring. I'm not interesting as a streamer. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Either way, there's a decent chance I'll end up watching it. And that I also think there is a decent chance that we could see Half-Life 3 there, finally. And even if not, it still could be kind of fun. So. That's all I have on that. All right, you want to talk about the Steam Machine pricing?
All right, so we've talked last week about, our theories on the pricing, and we have some confirmation. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily good news. According to the Friends Per Second podcast, Valve's Pierre-Loup Griffet, I am horrible at French, claimed that the Steam Machine, and this is coming from the Video Games Chronicle, claimed that the Steam Machine price hasn't been finalized, and Valve is hoping to offer a quote-unquote good deal with PCs, but at the same time, Valve is not trying to subsidize costs and is not trying to price it like a console, but more in lines of a PC. So we shouldn't expect it to be, roughly the same price as the PS5 and Xbox Series X. And a quote from the podcast: I think that if you build a PC from parts and get to basically the same level of performance, that's the general price window that we aim to be at. Ideally, we'd be pretty competitive with that and have a pretty good deal, but we're working on refining that as we speak, and right now it's just a hard time to have a really good idea of what the price is going to be, because there's a lot of different things that are fluctuating. And so, also another quote here asking if it would be competitively priced. The answer was no. It's more in line with what you might expect from the current PC market. Obviously, our goal is for it to be a good deal at that level of performance, and then you have features that are actually really hard to build if you're making your own gaming PC from parts. Things like the small form factor, and I think the noise level that we achieved, or lack thereof, is really impressive, and we're excited that the people are going to find out how quiet this thing is. And that is extensively what we know right now. I have some mixed feelings right now, and some of these mixed feelings were sort of like updated later on. But before I get into that, what are your thoughts on this current development?
All right, well, I guess my main thing with this is I think that they need to cap it at a certain point. Like I would say for the average consumer, if it's more than $700, it's not going to sell. I mean, obviously this isn't intended to be mass market, otherwise they would sell it outside of their own store. But I'm pretty sure, like, I've heard of a couple of different content creators like making their own Steam machine with similar specs. I think like Oh No It's Alex, I'm pretty sure when he did a test one through PC Part Picker, he was able to get it around $800. But that's also just buying the individual parts, not being able to make any deals with the manufacturers or anything like that. And so theoretically $700 should be doable for them. I don't think they should. I think they should go lower. Realistically, I think it should be like 500 or I'm sorry, 400 or 450 maybe for the 512 gig version, maybe 500 to 550, and then 600 for the 2 terabyte version. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to obviously charge like $50 to $100 more for basically 4 times the storage, but I just think that the issue that they're going to have is that they have to come up with something that is going to be that people are going to be willing to pay. And I mean, personally, as it stands right now, depending on what it would be for any sort of bundle price, I don't even know for sure if I'm going to do it, because yeah, I've leaned heavily towards it, and obviously I talked about that a lot last week. But if it ends up being, $1,500 for the bundle, I don't know if I'd be willing to go that high. I would be very hesitant to spend $700 on a Steam machine. I think that's just too much. I think pretty much if it was $600 for the Steam machine, or if it ended up being like we talked about last week, $1,200 for the bundle of the 3 devices, that I would be willing to do. But $700 for just the one device, especially if it ended up being that it's like, oh, it's $700 for the one device, or it's like $1,400-$1,500 for the bundle, that's just, it's not reasonable enough to me to be willing to do that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess the other thing is that what exactly this means, it's really hard to say how much this is actually going to cost. And I don't know if I can really say anything further than what I've already said that's going to be any more compelling. But the TLDL is that I think it needs to be $700 or less if it's going to succeed. I think $600 would be the best, and I hope that Valve is going to make a smart decision, because otherwise it's going to be dead on arrival. That's what I got.
Yeah, this is definitely highly disappointing, to say the least. And yeah, I mean, I get that this is a PC and not a console, but at the same time, you don't, given its design and form factor, you are to a degree limited with what you can do with it. Like, you can't upgrade the CPU or the GPU, because those are pretty much soldered onto the board. Like, the only thing you really upgrade is just the RAM and the storage. Can't really upgrade the power supply. So, there are limits to what you can do with it, even though it is still a PC. And I will grudgingly admit that I do understand that it being a small form factor can and definitely will mess with the pricing a bit, just because I know from personal experience with trying to find small form factor parts, mainly like motherboards and stuff, those can be a bit more expensive than like regular, ATX, regular like mid-size tower parts. So I can understand that on that end, like, yeah, it is those components are going to be more expensive, because for whatever reason, small form factor parts are just more costly. So I can understand that. And then this is kind of going to bleed into it, but so I'm going to try and limit what I'm saying here. But I think them not locking down a price right now is really going to raise a lot of questions, because with DRAM, being so expensive right now, the fact that trying to buy a 32 gigabyte kit of RAM is going to cost you at least $300, or more, and the price is just going up. And I'll go more into that in the next topic, but that could possibly influence prices. And even if it doesn't influence prices as much as they could influence it, because prices are going so high with RAM. If you are trying to get into PC gaming, especially from console gaming, and you see like the Steam machine being, maybe like $600-$700, considering how much RAM is right now, especially if you're trying to build a PC, that might be a little more enticing on that end. Now, I mean, obviously, if you already have like a beefy PC, it's not gonna really be all that appealing to you or whatnot. But still, like, it could be appealing. But I'm just hoping that whatever has happened, I hope that Valve has solidified any types of deals they've needed to make with manufacturers and stuff, and whoever they're getting their RAM from right now. Hopefully that's situated so that way at least they have a price that they have to pay, and they don't have to necessarily shift that price onto consumers, because having to pay an extra $100 or so because RAM is going up everywhere else is not my idea of a good time.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, I feel like that's really everything I have to say right now without bleeding into the next topic. But it's disappointing, but I can somewhat understand if it's like $700. But like you said, they really need to cap this thing, especially if they want it to do well. And I mean, I do feel like they could still subsidize some of this, because I mean, most people buying this are going to be using Steam anyway, so you're gonna be getting those sales back. You're gonna be getting that money back through people buying games on Steam. You're gonna get a good chunk of change there. So like, I don't think it would hurt them to charge this at like 500, 550, 600, 650. I don't think that would kill them. But again, we'll just have to wait and see later on. If there is a good bundle, yeah, I'll definitely get all three. I would be willing to spend up to $1,500. Anything beyond that, I personally feel is just like, I really can't see myself doing that. At least not right now. I might have just like buy stuff separately at the time. Definitely get the controller. I feel like is probably my biggest thing.
Right.
And then slowly over time, like getting the other parts and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I stand with everything.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our last topic, which is related, at least in terms of the RAM side of things. And that is that Ekbok is apparently dead again, because according to Moore's Law is dead, because of the global DRAM shortages, it could be affecting Xbox consoles, because essentially they did not stockpile RAM prior to the shortage starting, meaning that they don't have an extra stock, which means they can't produce as many consoles, and therefore Ekbok dead. That they may have to raise the price, essentially. So with all of this, let me just read what specifically has been pointed out here. So according to let me find here. Let me just look at this here. Okay, so according to Moore's Law's Dead's sources, the resulting price hikes and shortages have left companies without a large stock of components, reportedly including Microsoft. They didn't plan ahead at all, said host Tom. If you still want an Xbox for some reason at their current pricing, those prices could go up soon or supply could just entirely dry up. Because multiple sources of mine have apparently been warned by sales reps at Microsoft that this is going to affect the Xbox Series consoles very, very soon, sooner rather than later. He says that PlayStation is less likely to be affected by the price increases because apparently they planned ahead and bought up gobs of RAM near the bottom of the pricing, and thus they should be fine for months. So they have plenty of RAM ready to go, and at least that's what he has been told. So, before we get into our specific thoughts, I just want to say one thing, and that is take it with a grain of salt, as always. But, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised one way or another. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft didn't just, stockpile RAM. I mean, no one, well, no one would have expected this to happen to a degree, although I almost would like to say that Microsoft probably should have seen this coming, since they have a large stake in OpenAI, which is the whole reason why this DRAM shortage is happening in the first place, since they're buying it for their data centers. I would have, think that they would have insight into knowing, hey, the company we're investing in is going to buy a lot of RAM, which is something that we need. So, we would also like to make sure that we have enough RAM to meet our needs and stuff. So I would imagine they would have that type of insight and whatnot. But if they didn't, then yeah, they're definitely in quite the pickle there. And I do, considering everything that's happening, I do see them possibly, if they aren't running out, I do see them trying to buy whatever RAM they can from anyone and anywhere to meet demand for Xboxes. But at the same time, I also predict that would mean they're going to raise prices for Xboxes as well. And since they haven't been shy with raising prices twice this year already, they do that. They would do that a third time. I mean, not third time this year, but they would raise them again, the prices again.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that. Now, if Sony has gone ahead and purchased a bunch of RAM and stockpiled RAM, I can't say one way or another if that's true or not. If they have purchased a bunch of RAM, good on them. They'll have what they need to make components and stuff. But if Microsoft hasn't, then that's going to be a problem that's going to impact them. But I do also want, people are going to say, wow, fanboys will say, wow, Microsoft was stupid for not looking ahead, for not planning this out, for not trying to take these type of precautions. Yes, they probably could have bought more RAM, but at the same time, no one was going to expect that an AI company was going to buy all the RAM or the majority of RAM and pretty much leave everyone else out to dry. And so for those people, okay, sure, people might not be able to buy an Xbox, but this is pretty much impacting everything that's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, initially, Nvidia was saying that because of the lack of RAM, it's going to, I think, delay the 50 series Super cards. And the prices for those cards might even go up because of the fact that they need RAM for, they need the modules for their VRAM. So that's going to cause prices to go up. AMD has told their partners that that their cards are possibly going to be going up by 10%. So that means that, AMD graphics cards are going to be going up, NVIDIA graphics cards are going to be going up. you know, anything essentially that needs RAM is going to possibly be going up because there's such a shortage. You know, so, and again, like I said earlier, the prices of just DDR5 RAM has shot up dramatically. I mean, I saw people saying that they bought RAM earlier this year. Like, they bought like a 64 module kit for about, I think, 250, 300, something like that. Now that price is around $700 and going up. Like I said earlier, the price of 32 gigabyte RAM is now $300, and that's just starting the price. That's the starting price, and having to pay 200-300% more for RAM is insane. Yeah. So like the DIY market is just abysmal right now if you're trying to build a PC, just because you know, there's no RAM. I mean, GPU prices, they've gone down. I mean, you can buy a 5070 Ti card for less than MSRP. You can buy an RX 90 series card right now for less than MSRP. And you know, you can even get like some overclocked cards for like a little more than MSRP. So GPUs, like, they've been doing well right now, but RAM is just the thing that's killing it. And I mean, I feel kind of bad right now because I was like, well, eventually when I build my full actual gaming PC, I'm gonna, you know, get everything in there. But the one thing that I didn't have was RAM, because I was like, you know, I don't really feel like paying $175 right now for, you know, 64 gigabyte RAM. I'm like, I'll wait a bit longer. You know, the price is gonna come down eventually. You know, did it for DDR4. That's fine. I can wait. And then I'm looking right now. I'm like, oh, that's not good at all. So I mean, like, if I were to build the piece right now, I was upgrading the RAM in my friend's PC, and so I stuck in like a kit and replaced the RAM he had. So I have one 16 gigabyte stick of DDR5 memory. So I'm like, I could technically use that and it'll work, but that thing's gonna really limit what I could do. Considering like I would have like a 9070 and Ryzen 9 9950X 3D, whatever it is, in there. So I'm like, oh, that thing's really gonna be limited. But I'm like, I could technically get to work, but it's just, this market is so bad, and so that's gonna really also just impact, you know, pre-builds as well. Probably you're gonna see prices go up, which is insane to think that RAM's gonna cause pre-builds to go up and not like GPUs. And you know, so like even other stuff that like even maybe like cell phones, the prices in them, because those have RAM in them too. So
yeah,
for any fanboy who thinks, oh, this is just gonna impact Xbox, no, everything that uses some sort of computer technology is gonna go up because of AI. And anyone who pushed for AI and was like, oh yeah, I love my Chat GPT, you're the reason why this is happening, and I hold you responsible for this. And I'm just like, I really just want this AI bubble to crash so that way, you know, we can get back to, I mean, we already had to deal with like crypto bros buying up GPUs back in 2020 and stuff like that, and now we're contending with the AI bros and stuff. I'm just like, ugh. But AI rants aside though, with regarding Xbox, while Moore's Law, you know, could be correct, just because Microsoft has a vested interest in OpenAI, and I don't remember how much of the company they own, but I feel like because they own enough of it, they have some insight into what the company's going to do, and I really think that Microsoft wouldn't be stupid enough to just, you know, not know that, hey, OpenAI is going to buy up the majority of RAM, and not think we shouldn't buy some too ahead of time. I just don't see that happening. Could I be wrong? Sure. but it just doesn't make sense to me, is all I'm gonna say. But yeah, that's all that I have to say on this gloomy topic.
All right. Well, I do have quite a few thoughts on this. First of all, I'm very glad that I did my upgrade to PC early this year because I still got the RAM at the normal price. So I just looked it up, and for the 64 gigs of DDR5, including tax, it was just under 170. So I got it, before the price went up with the 64 gigs. I had contemplated going for a full 128, but decided not to because it was just ridiculous. 64 is already overkill for what I do. But yeah. So going back to the main topic though. So first thing I want to point out is, like you said, these RAM prices are going to affect absolutely everyone. Every single hardware manufacturer, every single bit of hardware that uses RAM is going to be affected by this, regardless of what anybody says. That's just the reality. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, I'm with you in part on the idea of theoretically Microsoft should have seen this coming, and maybe Moore's Law is dead's information is not correct. And of course, he is a lot more of a PlayStation fanboy, so that's part of why I kind of take his information with a grain of salt. However, I also recognize that it could still be true. Now, if this is true, first of all, bravo PlayStation for stockpiling. And assuming that it's true that Xbox did not see this coming and did not plan ahead, then Xbox, you're a moron for not planning ahead in this situation as a hardware manufacturer. However, something that I thought was kind of funny about this is that Microsoft is actually one of the few companies that could probably afford to not do any further price increases because the Xbox doesn't sell. So they probably have a bunch of units just sitting waiting to be sold that they don't even have to manufacture more, and they'll be good for a while because it doesn't sell enough to where it's really helpful. So it's like either Xbox dead because they don't sell units, or Xbox dead because they sell too many units and they have to increase the prices. But I think that at least if they're smart, and I'm not giving them enough credit to say that they're going to be smart, if they're smart, even if it is true that they didn't see this coming, they didn't stockpile, I definitely think that the smart thing would be that even if it ends up hurting their bottom line initially, they just don't increase the prices any further, because they are going to have to, they need to not, they can't have a third price increase in a short amount of time. They just can't do that. That's just, they'll be more dead than they apparently already are. But what I also want to point out is that even if it is true that PlayStation does in fact have a stockpile, I guarantee you that, especially if Xbox raises the prices, but, well, I should say, if Xbox raises the prices, Sony's going to raise their prices too, even if they have a stockpile. Even if they bought it when it was as cheap as they could possibly get it, they're still going to raise the prices, because guess what? Money, 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 money. That's really what it comes down to. And anyone who doesn't think that they're going to do that, I'm sorry, you need to get a reality check, because they want money and they have a good excuse. They can say, oh, it's because of market conditions. It's because of the fact that these prices went up. And I guarantee you, furthermore, that whether they stockpiled or not, if they raise the prices, they are going to get a break from PlayStation fanboys, and Xbox is going to get flack regardless, because the Xbox tax is real. And you don't have to like Xbox, you don't have to like PlayStation, or hate PlayStation, whatever. Just recognizing these companies want money, and regardless of what smart or stupid decisions they made, and I wouldn't put it past either one of them. I would not put it past Microsoft to make a really stupid decision and to not stockpile this RAM. But I also wouldn't put it past PlayStation to stockpile the RAM and still raise the prices and claim it's because of the fact that the RAM prices have gone up. This thing is going to affect absolutely every bit of electronics, and it's going to suck. And I don't know what that's going to mean for one console prices. I don't know what that's going to mean for the Steam Machine price. Either way, I'm glad that I did all my upgrades when I did. And I'm glad that I'm in good shape from that standpoint, that I don't need to upgrade anytime soon. I will be good for years to come, and eventually the prices will go down. But another thing that I was thinking is that, assuming Microsoft in fact really didn't stockpile and they're short on stock, they probably were thinking just like you and like most people, oh, RAM prices are always cheap, we'll get it as we need it, instead of it being like, we better get it when it's as cheap as it can go, and that way we have it just in case. But I think realistically speaking, like I said before, the simple fact that their console doesn't sell very well, that their consoles just don't sell well in general, they probably have a massive stock that they probably won't even sell through, and they could afford to just keep the price lower. And does that mean they will? I don't know. I think that would be the smart thing to do, to at least get some sort of goodwill, even though it really wouldn't help much. But I honestly don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If Microsoft raises the price, and I didn't think about the fact that they might just have a large stockpile of consoles anyway, so they're like, yeah, we don't need to worry about that because we've got consoles to sell already. But I definitely agree that if Microsoft ends up raising the price, Sony would be right behind them in getting ready to raise the price, and the fanboys would definitely be saying like, yeah, I see no problem here. So Microsoft did, Sony can do it too. What do you expect? I mean,
well, at the same time though, they would still say Xbox bad for doing it, but then they would say, but it's okay if Sony does it. It's totally okay.
Yeah, and not to even think about the fact that with the prices of the PS5 going on sale, I think this was only the digital version. It's on sale right now for Black Friday, and it's only an MSRP for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because they're so good. Let's applaud them for going back to MSRP when the price never went down in the first place. Yeah.
I know, but yeah, that's all I've got.
Yep. It is crazy. All right. Well, that's really all I had for topics tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
That is all that I have.
All right. So we'll have a shorter show this week to make up for the 3-hour show from last week. But we'll definitely have some more stuff to talk about in future weeks, especially with the Game Awards coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure that will give us a good lengthy episode. Lots of stuff to talk about. But either way, let's just get into our recommendations and dissuasions. So why don't you start us off?
My recommendation is going to be, if you are trying to, well, I guess, build a PC and you already bought your RAM, or if you're trying to upgrade your already existing PC, regarding the GPU specifically, buy one now if you can afford it. GPU prices are definitely pretty good, like I said, with the RTX 5070 Ti. I think the 5060 Ti, but I can't remember if that one was only an 8GB or if that also had a 16GB version as well. But definitely with the 5070 and 5070 Ti, those are, definitely lower. I think they're roughly around 700 to 720. So you could get those. The AMD's graphics cards are definitely also lower. I can't remember the exact prices of like the the 9060 XT, but those are at least MSRP, if not maybe a little bit lower. I don't know. I definitely know that the 9070 and 9070 XT, those are at MSRP and a little lower, especially if you get like the more base model cards. Those are definitely like $30 cheaper than MSRP, and you can definitely get like some overclocked models for maybe like between $30 to $50 above MSRP. So it's definitely a pretty good time to like get some sort of upgrade. And in fact, because of the current pricing, I kind of toyed around with the idea and was thinking to myself, I might go ahead and buy a 9070 XT and just like sell the 9070 I had, and do that. So I went ahead and got a 9070 XT and, gonna wait for that to arrive and then just go ahead and just sell the 9070, since originally that one that was sort of like my consolation prize, since I couldn't get a 9070 XT at launch. But I'm like, well, since the prices are lower now, I could just like get that, sell this one, get that little performance upgrade. So doing that. So, like I said, if you're trying to get a new GPU, definitely get one now. I would definitely say don't wait, if you can afford it, obviously. But especially if the prices are going to be going up because of VRAM and whatnot, I would definitely say now is the best time to buy one. And, you could get one online. I know Amazon definitely has some good pricing right now. You could probably get one from Newegg. And if you have one near you, Micro Center as well. So definitely check those options out. But yeah, that's my recommendation.
All right. Well, my recommendation, first of all, I do want to recommend Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. Fantastic game. If you're playing on PC, check Instant Gaming, because last I saw they had it on sale for $6.75, which is nice and cheap. But they do have a demo as well, so you can always just check out the demo, see if you like it, and if so, go for it. I would imagine if there's a demo on Steam, there's probably demos elsewhere as well. So if you're on a different platform, I recommend checking out the demo, see if you like it. But a more important recommendation, if you are dealing with issues with appliances, household appliances, whether it's something like a dishwasher or any other thing where you have error codes appear, rather than contacting someone to come and take a look at it, at least assuming that it's not like someone who can do it and isn't going to charge you for it, just look it up on YouTube. And I recommend YouTube rather than doing a Google search, because if you do Google search, you're probably going to get the AI summary, and it's probably going to make it sound like, oh, you need to hire someone, you have to spend all this money, so on and so forth. But if you do a YouTube search and you look it up, a lot of times you'll be able to find a short video that will explain how to fix the problem. And sometimes it's actually something really, really easy. I can think of 2 separate situations in recent months that were things that were actually really easy to fix. And it was just, one case it was YouTube, another time it was talking to someone that I know from church. And in both instances, the fixes were super easy. I didn't have to spend any money to get them fixed, and it was just like, I think the longest one that took me was fixing the dishwasher, and that was really just because initially I couldn't figure out how to get the top rack out of the dishwasher, and then I just looked it up on YouTube and found how to do a different one, which helped me to basically figure out how to get the one out from my dishwasher. But yeah, the fix was very, very easy. So that is my recommendation. All right, dissuasions.
My dissuasion is going to be, do not buy RAM right now. I know there might be a bit of, a fear of the prices going up and like, oh, well, if I don't buy it now, it's just going to go up. But no, don't do it. Don't buy the prices now. It might take a while, but eventually this craze is going to subside, and if you have a PC that's already competent right now, No, just keep doing it. If it works, just keep using it. Just weather the storm and wait for it to blow over. Because, I mean, the same thing happened with GPUs a couple years ago where,
Yeah.
you know, prices were going sky high and they were all sold out and stuff. And you can only get them from scalpers and stuff. And it's like, we're going through a similar situation right now. Like, we don't know it's going to end, but eventually prices will, you know, drop and things will normalize over again. So definitely don't do it. I know it might seem tempting to do it, and I even had to like stop myself once at one point, saying like, man, you know, I could just if I just go ahead now, I can stop it before like prices reach like 500 for like for a pair of 32 gigabytes. I'm like, no, that's stupid. Don't do it. Why would you pay $300 for 32 gigs of memory? It does not make sense at all. So do not buy RAM right now. Just wait for it to blow over and wait for prices to be reasonable again, you know. And you're also just going to help encourage this type of idea in the future anyway. Just to like, well, if people are willing to pay this much money, how about we make RAM more expensive? No, don't do that. So don't buy RAM right now.
Yeah,
that's my solid dissuasion.
Agree 100%. Absolutely. All right. My dissuasion is that if you are wanting to play mostly Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, don't buy a Switch 2. It's just not worth it right now, at least in my opinion. I think that you are much better off just getting, just either, especially if you already have a Switch, just stick with that Switch. As much as there's FOMO and everything else. And I know lots of people are happy with their Switch 2s. And lots of people are telling themselves they're happy with their Switch 2s, even if they're not actually happy with them. But I finally got out of that state of denial and admitted to myself that I was not happy with the Switch 2 and that I needed to just do something different. And I'm glad that I did, but I just don't want other people to make the same mistake that I did, because ultimately it was something that ended up costing me extra. You know, if I had just stuck with my Switch OLED, or instead decided, oh, I could have just bought another Switch OLED, then it would have worked out a little bit better. I guess the other thing I would say is, if you can find, if you have the option of buying a renewed / refurbished Switch OLED, and you do, want to take my recommendation and dissuasion on that front, buy one that, you get one that's refurbished instead of getting a new one, because the new ones right now, because of Nintendo raising the prices, are $400, whereas I got a used one which had a box that was banged up, but the Switch itself and the Joy-Cons were in excellent condition, and it was $250. So it was significantly cheaper. I didn't have to give Nintendo any more money. And it's just like, basically I got the Switch OLED plus a new grip for it that's dockable. And I spent less than I spent on my original Switch at launch. So it's a solid deal. It's a great screen on the Switch OLED. And I'm so happy that I decided to make that decision. Now it's just a matter of getting the Switch 2 out of my house and getting some of that money back. So yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, that's what I got.
Definitely a good way to save money.
All right. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. No new content this past week. I might do something, but with Thanksgiving and stuff, I probably won't be getting around to something until next week, so we'll definitely have to see on that end. I guess, though, just as another reminder, on December 12th, I will be doing my live stream playing Batman Arkham Origins as far as I can go, hopefully to the end this time, but I really came close to it last year, but up until I die, and so I'll see if I can finally beat the challenge this year or not. I think I'm going to probably be doing it around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'll
Okay.
have to finalize that, but that's roughly when I'm going to start, just so that way it's
Alright.
early enough. But yeah, that's that. Oh, and my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog, that's at Justin's Bible Blog. No new content on that channel either, but I do have a couple ideas that I'll probably work on. But again, with Thanksgiving and stuff, that's probably going to be something I work on next week at the earliest.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I did get a chance to check out your Expedition 33 review. I forgot to comment on it. I think I was just busy at the time, but that was obviously, what I was referencing in your intro is the fact that you said Expedition 33 is your new greatest of all time. So I was very surprised to hear that it dethroned Zero Mission for you. But I mean, I understand it. Like it is an amazing game, and Zero Mission's still up there. I'm sure it's still your number 2. Or now it's your number 2, but still very good choice. So, yeah, good stuff. All right. As for where you can find me, I have my YouTube gaming channel at The Frozen Gamer 87. I haven't put up anything new in a little while. I'm not sure when I'm going to have time to put something together. I had contemplated putting together a video talking about why I was getting rid of the Switch 2. But ultimately just decided that it made more sense for me to just focus on doing stuff for the family instead. So then I decided to do dishes on Saturday and, amongst some other stuff. And so, I don't have any regrets from that standpoint. I've been leaning more and more towards just kind of stepping back from publishing content on YouTube. I mean, obviously I haven't been real consistent on it anyway, but it's not as though I'm never going to do anything again. I probably will do more stuff. It's just that I don't want it to be something where I'm stressing about it, because like I can't be consistent with it. I just can't. And when I say I can't, I'm not saying that I'm not capable of doing it, but I'm saying that because I have things that are much more important to me in life, and I just don't have the time to be able to devote to really put a ton of time into YouTube when I have much more important priorities in life. And while it's something that if I worked hard enough at it, if I busted my butt like some of these other people do, and I major props to people who earn a living or even just do it as a side thing, but still work really hard to put out great content. It's like I have massive respect for those people, but for me, I know that I will not be putting out consistent enough content to make that a viable option. And so it's something I'm just doing as a hobby, pure and simple. And while I do hope to do some more stuff with it, and maybe hopefully do some stuff over Christmas break, it's just not important to me right now. So it will probably be a little bit before I can get some stuff done, but at least I do have a handful of things that I will probably do whenever I get to the point of actually getting more done with that. So there's that. I also then there's also the YouTube channel for the podcast, as well as a Rumble channel for that. That's YouTube at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but the video version goes live there at the same time as it does on YouTube, and that is 7 a.m. Central Time every Friday, barring any technical issues. This week, it will still be coming out on Friday with Thanksgiving and everything. It just will get put together earlier in the week. But then there's the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live every Friday at 12 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues, on all major podcast platforms. So if you check anything like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, etc., you should be able to find it listed there. And that's everything for that. I do have a YouTube cooking channel, but I haven't posted anything in there in about a year now. or pretty close to a year, but that is YouTube at NABD Cooking. That's not authentic but delicious. And some great recipes on there. One thing that I definitely recommend checking out from there post Thanksgiving is the Thanksgiving leftovers pizza, because it is so good. And I'm looking forward to making that this year again. So definitely be making it up the Friday after Thanksgiving. So that'll be good stuff. And yeah, that's everything.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that one out again and decide. Maybe I'll give that one a shot.
It's so good. You gotta try it. I think you will enjoy it. So, plus it's super easy. So it's like, can't go wrong. All right. Last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, enjoy the time you have with your families over this Thanksgiving holiday. And most importantly, Orange Box Podcast out.